In the summer of 1973, I had graduated high school and was working in a machine shop fabricating parts for aircraft switching systems. Throughout high school, I'd been a lousy student, had no ambition for going to college. I was making very good money as a lathe operator, and coming from a family that did such work in factories just seemed like the natural thing for me to do. But as summer wore on, I noticed that more and more of my friends had enrolled in college, many of them in Mercer County College, and I thought, why not? So 2 weeks into the semester, I enrolled as a non-matriculant student at Mercer. Now, even in high school, I had demonstrated an inclination toward creative arts and could draw reasonably well, so I enrolled in some graphic design courses and thought I might be able to develop into some sort of career. Now, while my initial focus was on graphic design, I soon became exposed to printmaking and was fascinated by the process as well as the end result. I began first with woodcuts, then with silkscreen printing, and eventually found my way to etching and aqua tint, which I found particularly fascinating. Now, Mel was one of my printmaking instructors. He had this wild head of dark, unruly hair, a mustache, and wore a navy blue lab coat. And of course, being Mel, he was wildly animated. He looked more like a mad scientist than a college professor. In any case, he had brought in some examples of his own aqua tint prints, one of which I now own, and I was intrigued by both the unusual, labor-intensive process as well as the simplification of the end result, all of which helped to kickstart my own interest in learning how to work with the medium. Now, around the same time, I had begun dating a young woman a year or two ahead of me who had taken some painting courses with Mel and encouraged me to sit in on one of his classes to see what it was all about. I attended a class in which he was giving a slide presentation on Impressionist and Post-Impressionist painters. It was interesting to hear him talk about not only what was going on in a particular painting, but also what was going on in the world at the time it was being created. It was that contextualization that I found particularly fascinating. Prior to that, I'd never really considered art as being a reflection of its time, and that opened up a whole new avenue of thought for me. Over time, and at the urging of both Mel and my then girlfriend, I finally enrolled in one of Mel's painting classes. Prior to that, I had never even attempted to paint, and in spite of my initial trepidation, I found that I had a knack for both drawing and painting from life with a brush and was really enjoying it. And that's pretty much how it all started for me. Now, up to that point, my experience with painting had been limited to pictures in books, and the rare visit to a museum. What I had been exposed to was really limited to old master paintings, Rembrandt and Manet and Leonardo, religious paintings, and the kind of formal portraiture that you might see in a government building. I'd never really been exposed to contemporary figurative painting, and that was a door that Mel opened wide for me. Now, his own work of that period was primarily depictions of his family, friends, and students, all in contemporary settings. The compositions were fascinating, but his use of composition and color were unlike anything that I'd really seen before. Far from sedate and lifeless, these paintings were vibrant and contemporary and greatly intrigued me. And as my studies continued, I was exposed to a vast world of contemporary figurative painters. Folks like Philip Pearlstein, Neil Welliver, Jack Beale, Fairfield Porter, Alex Katz, and so many others. I guess you could say I'd finally found my tribe. I took some more classes with Mel and learned a great deal about composition, how to use tone and color to draw the viewer in, and how to use shape and form to direct the eye around the canvas. It was fascinating stuff. It allowed me to look at old master paintings with a fresh perspective, and I began to look at the formal structure of contemporary figurative paintings as well, now starting to see aspects that went far beyond just the subject matter. I accompanied him on class trips to museums in the Northeast and soaked up his boundless enthusiasm and constant encouragement. the kind of encouragement that has no doubt bolstered the self-confidence of thousands of his students over the years. I was even a model for him and appear in a couple of his paintings from the mid-70s. Now, my own earliest paintings were a fairly direct reflection of Mel's influence, from both the choice of subject matter to even the brand of acrylic paints that he was using. And as my paintings became more ambitious in both complexity and scale, I began to achieve some early success in local and regional exhibitions. Now, my 2-year stint at Mercer quickly came to a close, but I now knew that I wanted to continue my study of painting. After a brief stint at the Trenton State College, now known as the College of New Jersey, I moved up to Brooklyn to study with Philip Pearlstein, who was at that point teaching at Brooklyn College. I eventually got my BA and MFA degrees in painting from Brooklyn, and had the good fortune to study with a number of very talented professors there, each of whom gave me useful critiques and new insights into my work. In the 5 years that I spent at Brooklyn, along with exposure to the New York art world, my work grew further away from the stylistic approach that I had assimilated from Mel, and began to exhibit more of my own personality. And over time, decades for that matter, it continued to evolve into what I hesitatingly refer to as my mature style. Now, 50 years later, I still take the lessons about composition and structure, along with the encouragement that Mel had given me all those years ago, to keep moving forward. I'm especially grateful to Mel for being responsible for my meeting yet another young woman, one who would eventually become my wife. Even today, no matter what I paint, I always have one question in the back of my mind. I wonder what Mel might think of this. Thank you, Mel.